Part 5. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 41. Li Qing came to Stanley Prison, looked at his younger brother Lin Yadong in the glass window, and smiled. Adong, what's the emergency, do you still need to notify me? As long as I can do it, I will definitely help you. Lin Yadong was stunned when he heard this, and then a trace of emotion flashed in his eyes. Then an anxious look appeared on Lin Yadong's face. Brother Qing, my cousin is missing. Please help me find her. Cousin? Yes, he came here smuggled in with me and washes dishes in a restaurant. Lin Yadong said eagerly. Okay, name, which restaurant do you work at? Chen Shooting, working at Yuking Hotel in Tsim Sha Tsui. Li Qing's eyes flashed when he heard this, the name sounds familiar. Okay, Li Qing agreed, his loyalty is 100%. If something happens to the younger brother, the elder brother still has to support it. Lin Yadong bowed deeply to Li Qing. He was the only girl in his aunt's family. If anything happened, he would be stabbed in the back when he returned home. Li Qing walked out of Stanley and immediately ordered his subordinates to start asking for news on the road. I also called Shaoqi and 13th Sister and asked them to spread the news about looking for someone. In a short time, 2 of the 10 short mules were asking about a 19-year-old girl named Chen Shooting. Sometimes, the channels below are more informed than the banknotes. In less than a day, Chen Shooting's information has been placed on Li Qing's desk. Brother, this Chen Shooting works in a restaurant during the day and as a waiter in a bar at night. Li Qing looked at the materials in his hand and nodded. According to the guy at the bar door, Chen Shooting got into a red taxi on a rainy night 2 days ago. I haven't seen her in the past 2 days. Zhang Dongzhou told Li Qing the news he had learned. Taxi, Li Qing paused. Zhang Dongzhou nodded doubtfully, well, it's indeed a taxi, but the guy said the driver was weird. Then he said, the driver was wearing a yellow raincoat in the taxi. Even if the taxi driver comes out, he should hold an umbrella. Wearing a raincoat is inconvenient and makes the car dirty. The rainy night butcher Lin Kuyu. Li Qing squinted his eyes and muttered softly. Zhang Dongzhou was far away and couldn't hear clearly what Li Qing said. Check, to Kuawan, find a taxi driver, night shift. There was a hint of anger in Li Qing's voice. He couldn't remember the specific address because it had been so long, but he still vaguely remembered to Kuawan from the movie he watched in his previous life. What made him angry was that if it was really Yi Butcher who did it, it was unlikely that Chen Shooting would survive. Just when the young and dangerous boys from New World, Hong Xing, and Lian Shen began to ask for news on the streets, a gentle young man walked by. Hey, four-eyed boy, have you seen this girl? A young and dangerous boy with yellow hair asked. The young man pushed up his glasses, looked at the photo seriously, and shook his head that he had never seen it before. Remember to tell me when you see her. If you really find this girl, I will protect you from now on. Okay, who is she? I met several people asking about her along the way, the man with glasses asked curiously. This girl is my boss's god sister, Huang Mao said casually. Do you know my boss? Li Qing from the New World. The bespectacled man's face changed slightly when he heard this, and he quickly said, I will tell you if I see him. Huang Mao looked at the bespectacled man's back and shouted, I'm at the tea restaurant at the east end of the street. If you see him, tell me if you see him. If Li Qing were here now, he would definitely recognize that this man with glasses is the legendary rainy night butcher Lin Kuyu. Lin Kuyu hurried home, passing several young and dangerous boys who were questioning passers-by. This time it was a big deal. He didn't expect that a working girl he tied up at will turned out to be Li Qing's god sister. He had heard of Li Qing, a big boss in the New World, cruel and inhumane. Regardless of how many women he killed, mentioning Li Qing makes his calves tremble a little. There have been too many dismemberments in the past few days, and it hasn't been the working girl's turn yet. I originally thought of having fun tonight and then dissecting. It seems that we have to wait, at least until the news is over. Lin Kuyu entered the Anking building. He lived with his parents and younger brother, worked late at night, and dissected corpses at home during the day. Because his parents and younger brother were at work during the day, no one bothered him. The corpses under the bed smell a bit, so we need to get rid of them quickly. Lin Kuyu gently sniffed the smell in the room. Lin Kuyu pulled out the naked body of a woman from under the bed. She was about 20 years old. Her body was covered with body spots. It looked like she had been dead for a day or two. Lin Kuyu took out his tools and began to dissect like a doctor, with a sickly smile on his face. Dong dong. A knock on the door woke him up, who was immersed in extreme pleasure. At this time, it shouldn't be my parents and younger brother, but maybe my neighbors. The knocking on the door became more and more urgent. He carefully looked through the peephole and saw that there were people standing outside with machetes in their hands. They were obviously members of the community organization. Lin Kuyu knew that he might have been discovered, so he put down the tools in his hands, hurriedly ran to the bed, and jumped down along the billboard. Knocked the door open, Li Qing frowned and said. Hearing this, the younger brothers kicked the wooden door into pieces instantly. A group of boys rushed into the house and started looking for Lin Kuyu. A shrill scream sounded. Li Qing took Zhang Dongxiu over, and several of his brothers vomited when they saw the scene in the house. A female corpse, which had been dismembered for most of the time, was placed on a plastic sheet. Even the gangsters who had been cheating on their friends for years could not bear this kind of shock. Li Qing looked at the face of the corpse and felt relieved. It should not be Chen shooting, who was not so mature. Chase him, he can't run far. Since Lin Kuyu was dealing with the corpse, it meant that he was in the house just now. Several brothers rushed out in a hurry after hearing this. He didn't want to stay here for a moment. It was bloody. Li Qing also left the room, pondered for a while, and said to Zhang Dongxiu, ask the younger brother to call the police. The rest of the younger brothers were stunned. Call the police? Just say that you came to Lin Kuyu's house to collect debts and found it. Li Qing especially hated this kind of pervert who specializes in killing women. They are all antisocial personalities. He also killed people, but he killed people for a purpose. This kind of people killed people just to satisfy their perverted psychology. Damn it, I'll make sure he has no way to heaven or hell. Dismembering people like animals was a little intolerable to him. Not long after Li Qing left, the police came in a hurry and were shocked to see the fragments on the ground. They knew that this was probably the rainy night butcher that was circulated in the past few days. For a time, the police's wanted order was all over Hong Kong. Lin Kuyu was trembling and hiding in an abandoned cold storage, where Chen Shooting, who was kidnapped by her, was. Looking at Chen Shooting, who had a good figure and a delicate face, he did not have any sexual impulse. Damn it, you said earlier that you were Li Qing's adopted sister. Lin Kuyu scolded with a sad face. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 42. Lin Kuyu looked at Chen Shooting with tears in his eyes. If he had known that she was Li Qing's adopted sister, he should not have gone to Tsim Sha Sui that day. Lin Kuyu slapped himself hard. His best fate was to escape from Hong Kong, otherwise he would definitely be drowned. Chen Shooting was his amulet now, and he dared not leave for a moment. Finally, it was dawn, and Lin Kuyu planned to buy a boat ticket to leave Hong Kong first. What scared Lin Kuyu was that even the police were looking for him, and he could no longer leave Hong Kong through formal channels. Lin Kuyu had to find his childhood friend A Kiang, who was a snakehead, and the two of them would often get together to drink. Sometimes when new stuff arrived, they would invite him to play together. Arriving at his childhood friend's boathouse, Lin Kuyu knocked on the door quietly. Aqiang, are you there? The door opened, and Lin Kuyu was instantly pulled into the house. You still dare to come out? Both the black and white worlds are looking for you. Aqiang looked at Lin Kuyu in front of him. You are really awesome. You dare to touch Li Qing's people. Stop talking. I regret it so much. How could I know that she is Li Qing's adopted sister? Lin Kuyu said with a depressed look. The boat at 8 o'clock in the evening goes to East Africa. But Chen shooting, you can't move. Bring her to me, Aqiang said softly. Before Lin Kuyu spoke, Aqiang knew that he came to smuggle out of Hong Kong. Why East Africa? Isn't Southeast Asia okay? Lin Kuyu still hoped to be closer to home. Then he said, what do you want him for? Aqiang looked at Lin Kuyu with contempt. Do you think Li Qing can't do anything to you in Southeast Asia? As for Chen shooting, I can make a lot of money by handing her over to Li Qing. At this time, Lin Kuyu completely believed him, because this Aqiang would not get up early without profit, and even his own father would not do it without profit. Okay. At 8 o'clock in the evening. Lin Kuyu hurried back. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Lin Kuyu took Chen shooting, who was tied with a rope, and slowly walked towards the dock. He looked around and saw no movement, so he felt relieved. Come here quickly, Aqiang shouted in a low voice from a distance. Hurry up, Lin Kuyu pushed Chen shooting, and Chen shooting staggered and almost fell to the ground. Knowing that he was about to escape, Lin Kuyu was very rude to Chen shooting. The two entered the boathouse and exchanged pleasantries for a while. When are we leaving? Lin Kuyu asked anxiously. Leave? Where to go? The door of the boathouse was pushed open, and it was Li Qing who walked in with his younger brother. Lin Kuyu was about to take Chen shooting as a hostage, but Chen shooting had already been pulled behind him by the snakehead Aqiang. Smuggling? Without my order, Li Qing, no bird can fly out of Hong Kong, Li Qing said domineeringly. You betrayed me. Lin Kuyu looked at Aqiang angrily. Haha, you shouldn't have done that. You kidnapped brother Qing's sister, and I can't save you. Aqiang spread his hands and said with a smile. I'll fight you. Zhang Dongzhou slapped the chicken like Lin Kuyu. And then, nothing happened. Lin Kuyu had already fallen into a coma. This time, Zhang Dongzhou didn't hold back. Half of Lin Kuyu's face had swollen like a bun. The younger brother with the camera behind him quickly took a photo of Lin Kuyu. This was also ordered by Li Qing in advance, mainly to send to Men Must Pretend. De Hu complained to him last time that because of this bastard, the heroines didn't dare to shoot at night. At least let the heroines see that the rainy night butcher they feared was this disgrace. Let's go to the high seas, Li Qing ordered. The style of the entire New World group was led astray by Li Qing. Basically, killing people must be done on the high seas. Because according to Hong Kong law, as long as it is not illegal in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong court has no right to judge. Li Qing stepped forward to untie Chen shooting's rope. This beauty is still a pure 19-year-old girl. She was terrified and thought she would be killed. After all, the girls who were tied up with her were strangled to death by Lin Kuyu in front of her. Don't be afraid. Your brother Lin Yadong is my younger brother. You are my younger sister. No one dares to hurt you. Li Qing patted Chen shooting's back gently. After a while, Chen shooting calmed down. Thank you. The voice was like a kitten, which made people feel pity. Not long after, they reached the high seas. The surgeon specially hired by New World glanced at Li Qing, and Li Qing nodded. The younger brothers also tied up Lin Kuyu's limbs. Lin Kuyu, who was in a coma, was like a lamb to be slaughtered, just like the women he killed. The surgeon walked forward with a very excited expression. He had never tried to dissect a living person. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Just when he was about to give Lin Kuyu anesthesia, Li Qing said while smoking a cigarette, "What anesthesia? Has the girl he killed been anesthetized?" Start with his 2 quail eggs. The surgeon paused, then picked up the scalpel and cut towards Lin Kuyu's crotch. Lin Kuyu's screams echoed several miles around the ship. Half an hour later, the dying Lin Kuyu looked at Li Qing and begged, kill me, please. Chen Shooting looked at the skinned Lin Kuyu in horror, and hugged Li Qing trembling all over. Alas, who told me to be so kind? Li Qing put on gloves, held Lin Kuyu's neck with his right hand, and exerted a little force. Click, Lin Kuyu gradually stopped breathing. A familiar chill surged from his chest and spread throughout his body. Li Qing felt that his strength had increased a little. Well, after returning, I will spar with Fen Yuxiu, spar. After the younger brothers dealt with the corpse, Chen Shooting in his arms still refused to get off Li Qing. Until Li Qing found a hotel for Chen Shooting and was about to leave. Can you wait until I finish taking a shower before leaving? I'm scared. Chen Shooting said timidly. Li Qing sighed, are you 18 years old this year? 19 years old. Chen Shooting raised her head carefully and glanced at Li Qing. Okay. Li Qing sat on the sofa reluctantly. Half an hour later, he saw Chen Shooting coming out in a bath towel, and his eyes lit up. As expected of a girl in her prime, she exuded an alluring fragrance all over her body, and even her walk was full of the vitality of a girl. Ahem, I should go. Li Qing stood up and walked towards the door. Passing by Chen Shooting, he was suddenly hugged from behind. Li Qing could clearly feel his back being squeezed by the headlights, and Chen Shooting's warm breath blew through his shirt on his back. This, any man would probably not be able to bear it. Hey, little girl, you are playing with fire, Li Qing said with a smile. Brother, then burn me to death. Chen Shooting gently put her face on his back. Hearing the word brother, he became even more excited. There were rumors in the world that Chen Shooting was Li Qing's adopted sister, and this time she might really become an adopted sister. Li Qing was also very excited, and the dragon roared. Touching the peach, a little blood appeared on his hand. Is this your first time? Chen Shooting nodded shyly and covered her face with a pillow. Li Qing was stunned for a moment, and was cautious, cough cough, imagining. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 43. In the early morning, Li Qing woke up and gently touched the woman's body. As expected of a woman in her 20s, her body is as smooth as silk, and her top and bottom are full of youthful vitality. Although he has a traitorous plot, it does not prevent him from liking younger women. As an adult, he chooses both. Feeling the woman's body tremble, Li Qing chuckled and said, "Are you awake?" The Karen in her arms suddenly blushed with embarrassment and closed her eyes without saying a word, but her trembling eyelashes betrayed her. "When you wake up, get up. I also want to say hello to your cousin today." He gently patted Chen Shooting's buttocks, eliciting a cooing cry. It wasn't until Li Qing walked into the bathroom that Chen Shooting sat up and looked at a small flower on the white sheets. She took out the scissors from the toolbox in the guest room, cut it off, and put it secretly into her pocket. After taking a shower, Li Qing looked at Chen Shooting, who was still wearing yesterday's dirty clothes. Wait a minute, I've already sent someone to buy new clothes? Chen Shooting smiled sheepishly and stood aside a little dull. Weren't you very proactive yesterday? What? You're so reserved today. Looking at the shy girl in front of him, she didn't have the crazy energy last night at all. Come here, come over and wipe my hair. Li Qing sat on the sofa and threw the towel in his hand to Chen Shooting. Chen Shooting hurriedly took the towel and walked slowly to Li Qing. Li Qing suddenly held Chen Shooting in his arms and asked her to sit astride his lap. Seeing the Karen in front of him, he blushed and slowly picked up the towel and gently wiped his hair. He looked at the small cherry-like mouth and couldn't help but take a peck, and a hum sound came from the woman's mouth. Chen Shooting also felt the heat under her buttocks and stood up in panic. "Brother Qing, no, it still hurts." Li Qing had been struggling for half the night yesterday, and she didn't know when she fell asleep. Her whole body was about to fall apart. At this time there was a knock on the door. "Sir, you have bought your clothes?" Not long after, Chen Shooting finished taking a bath and changed her clothes. Li Qing looked at Chen Shooting, who was wearing a tight thin sweater on her upper body and a short skirt on her lower body, and her heart felt hot again. "Well, my face is just a little tender, and my hairstyle is wrong." He turned around and looked at Chen Shooting. "Isn't it a bit too mature?" Chen Shooting looked at herself in the mirror and said softly. "I like it," Li Qing said domineeringly. Oh. The two of them had some breakfast at the hotel and planned to go to Stanley to visit Lin Yadong. At this time, a group of people were gathered around various newspaper stalls in Xiangjiang, holding newspapers and talking about something unknown. Looking at his bruised nose and swollen face, he must have been beaten a lot. "This is the legendary Rainy Night Butcher, and it's not like this." "Haha, who is his opponent?" "Li Qing, a talker in the New World, a person who can shock the world with just one stomp." "Awesome, Li Qing has done something for the people this time, right?" "Hey, how do you know it was the New World that did it?" "Lin Kuyu kidnapped Li Qing's god sister, what do you think?" "You're so blind that you didn't see that at the bottom of all the newspapers it says, 'The latest news comes from Men Must Pretend.' This magazine is from the New World, don't say you haven't read it." "Well, occasionally. For a time, the people in Xiangjiang were talking a lot. This time the New World group did something to relieve their anger. The main reason was that Lin Kuyu was too cruel and even caused panic in Xiangjiang to a certain extent. Li Qing's approach of eliminating harm for the people won the support of most people in Xiangjiang, and to a certain extent changed the public's view of the New World society. Of course, they didn't know that Lin Kuyu died so tragically, but they believed that Li Qing would definitely kill Lin Kuyu. In Stanley Prison, Lin Yadong was very happy to see that his cousin was safe and sound. The two looked at each other in tears, and Chen Shooting cried uncontrollably. Lin Yadong bowed to Li Qing and thanked him. "Brother Qing, thank you. If it weren't for you, Xiaoting would have. You are my little brother, and your cousin is my sister." Li Qing waved his hand. "Yes, Brother Qing takes good care of me," Chen Shooting said softly. Only then did Lin Yadong see Chen Shooting's dress clearly. He glanced back and forth at Li Qing and Chen Shooting, and he understood everything. He smiled and said, "Brother Qing, I feel relieved when you take care of Shooting. Don't worry, she is my woman now, and I will treat her well." Chen Shooting felt a little shy when she heard Li Qing's words. After all, she still couldn't let go in front of her relatives. "When you are released from prison, I will come to pick you up personally." After a while, Li Qing took Chen Shooting out of the prison. Regarding Chen Shooting's arrangements, Li Qing has his own plan. "You are still young, so you still have to study." In fact, Chen Shooting also longs to study. If it were not for her family poverty, she would not leave her hometown and come to Xiangjiang. "Can you not read it?" Chen Shooting said softly. "Huh? Why?" Li Qing looked at Chen Shooting strangely. "I want to help you with something." Chen Shooting didn't want to be free of charge. She wanted to help Li Qing, at least do what she could for him. Li Qing looked at the entry "Loyalty 100% on Chen Shooting's head and smiled. "If you study hard, you can help me in the future." After rubbing her head lovingly, Chen Shooting fell into his arms and nodded. After bringing Chen Shooting back to the villa, Gang Sheng also welcomed this little sister, without any jealousy. He was also very satisfied with Gang Shen's performance, which was more than one level higher than the previous Zixi. According to Li Qing's request, Gang Sheng arranged Chen Shooting in a senior high school in Causeway Bay, which was also convenient for care. Days passed, and due to the Lin Kuyu incident, New World's external image was good. Even some college students began to apply for positions in the company, slowly putting the company on the right track. Li Qing was also idle, and his work all day was to inspect various subsidiaries. Today it was Feng Yuxiu's turn to go to the security company. It was called a security company, but the decoration inside was completely designed according to the boxing gym. After all, Feng Yuxiu didn't know anything except practicing martial arts and teaching boxing. The operation of the security company was assisted by people specially sent by Li Qing. Rub it hard. We martial artists have to decide the superiority and the inferiority, and decide life and death. Before entering the door, I heard Feng Yuxiu loudly scolding his younger brother. As soon as Li Qing entered the room, he saw more than a dozen younger brothers rubbing their faces vigorously with coarse sea salt, each of them grinning, comparable to the 10 tortures of the Qing dynasty. Feng Yuxiu, what are you doing? They are thick-skinned enough, why are you still rubbing? Li Qing said with a smile. When the younger brothers saw that the person who came was the boss, they were like children who saw their mothers and almost cried. It was really too much suffering. Since being assigned to Feng Yuxiu, they get up earlier than chickens and sleep later than dogs every day. Some young people who just came only persisted for a week and cried and shouted to go back to school. Li Qing, what do you know? The ancient training method taught by the master at this time is more powerful than kicking coconut trees in Muay Thai. Feng Yuxiu looked at Li Qing and said with a smile. It's just right. I think my tiger fist has made some breakthroughs recently. Let's help. Since Li Qing killed Lin Kuyu last time, he felt that his strength and physical fitness have greatly increased. It's just right to try his guess. Feng Yuxiu's expression changed slightly, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Okay, today, well, let's decide the winner. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 44. All the boys stopped and looked at the ring with burning eyes. Everyone knows that Li Qing is very powerful, but most of them have never seen him. But Feng Yuxiu's kung fu was something they had seen before, a master who could smash the cement floor by stamping his feet. The two stood on both sides of the ring. Li Qing lowered his body and took the tiger fist stance, while Feng Yuxiu showed his small grappling stance. Li Qing pounced in an instant, and everyone seemed to hear a tiger roar, and their scalps were numb from the shock. Just this move shows that his tiger fist has already entered the palace. Feng Yuxiu didn't show any weakness, and grabbed Li Qing's arm with a wrapped hand, intending to separate the muscles and bones, catching him off guard. But a strong force surged up and instantly lifted him away. He hit the guardrail hard and the whole ring made a clanging noise. The boys in the audience all rubbed their eyes with expressions of disbelief. What did I see? The boss beat the coach away. Nick Hyde, the boss is really powerful. If the boss wins, I won't have to practice martial arts anymore. You're thinking shit. Feng Yuxiu on the stage was shocked. Li Qing's power had grown too fast. In just 10 days, he has actually gained half the strength of a tiger. Did you eat the feed? Old Feng, why are you talking? I've eaten a lot recently and gained some strength. Li Qing noticed that Feng Yuxiu looked at him in a wrong way. Hey? Where are you going? Feng Yuxiu glanced at Li Qing and turned to leave. I just remembered that I made soup for Shen Shui, but I forgot to turn off the fire. I'll go take a look. Looking at Feng Yuxiu's back, Li Qing clenched his fist and defeated the enemy with one move. He felt that he could defeat 10 of them now. Feng Yuxiu walked out of the boxing gym and quickly rubbed his waist. The bump just now obviously caused him internal injuries. No, I must ask him next time what kind of natural treasures he has eaten. Oops. In the boxing gym, Li Qing chatted with the boys for a while, drank a lot of chicken soup for their souls, and then walked out of the security company with satisfaction. Let's go to a bar in Mongkok. Zhang Dongzia quickly went to drive. Wo Shen, Yao Mati, Tsim Sha Sui in Honghing, and Mongkok in New World are called Yao Tsim Mong and are the most prosperous places in Hong Kong. Among them, most of the shops in Mongkok are gold shops, and the monthly land fee alone is more than 3 million. In the past, many societies had branches in Mongkok. Since Li Qing followed Liang Kun, Mongkok has gradually become uniform. Now the entire Mongkok is New World, and no association dares to plant its flag here. Li Qing and Zhang Dongzia got out of the car and greeted the shop owners casually. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Since the establishment of New World Group, the land fee in Mongkok has been completely voluntary, and Li Qing has never forced it. After all, Li Qing doesn't like such a small amount of money. But most of the bosses have voluntarily submitted their jobs. The New World is different from other societies in that it really takes care of things. From being a gangster and making trouble to being a gold shop being robbed, they are all in charge of it, so all the young and dangerous boys in the New World are unexpectedly popular in Mongkok. Bang bang. There was loud gunfire in a gold shop, and soon several robbers wearing stockings rushed out, carrying large and small bags. One of the short men shot a shuttle into the sky and shouted something. When Li Qing saw this scene, he frowned and looked at the short man opposite. The short man looked afraid and fell down, so the two silly big men stood on the street. What are you looking at? I've never seen any robbers. Li Qing slowly took out a cigarette, and Zhang Dongzia behind him immediately lit it for him. Tucking his hair back, Li Qing said softly, I hate you robbers the most, you have no technical skills at all. The short man was stunned after hearing this. He had seen a tiger before, but he had never seen such a tiger. He had a gun in his hand. Just as he was about to say something, a voice came from behind, What are you doing standing still? Get in the car quickly. The short man glanced at Li Qing, quickly jumped into the car and left. Li Qing walked slowly to the gold shop that was robbed. Have you paid the land fee for this shop? No, said the younger brother who knew immediately. Yet after looking at it for a few times, Li Qing turned around and walked out of the gold shop without saying anything. It's none of his business if he doesn't pay the land fee. This kind of thing has to be left to the police. Whether he is caught or not depends on God's will. In the robber's car, the little man said excitedly, Brother it's a pity that you didn't see it. Those people were so frightened by my row of bullets that they lay on the ground and didn't dare to move, like bastards. The whole car was filled with whispers. A group of robbers did not expect that the robbery would be so easy. Soon a group of robbers arrived at a hotel and dumped all the gold jewelry on the table, dazzling everyone who saw it. I've said before that it's much easier to buy jewelry than to rob a gold shop, said Zhang Xiao, dressed in white. By the way, is it the gold shop I designated? Don't make a mistake. Zhang Xiao had already found out in advance that the gold shop had not paid the land fee. He didn't want to get into trouble with Li Qing. No. Zhang Xiao nodded, by the way, send those big boys back quickly to avoid a long night of dreams. Good. Li Qing is arranging work in the office. After he managed the society as a company, many tasks have been detailed to the individual. Brother, there is a man named Zhang Xiao who wants to see you. Zhang Dongzia walked up to Li Qing and said. Zhang Xiao? Let him in. Soon, Zhang Dongzia brought a man dressed in a flashy way into the office. Brother Qing, I've heard of your name for a long time. Li Qing looked at the newcomer and smiled, Hello, Zhang Xiao, right? Sit down. Zhang Xiao was not shy and sat straight on the chair. I've heard of Brother Qing's reputation for a long time, so I came to visit you, Zhang Xiao said politely again. Li Qing waved his hand, Brother Zhang, if you have anything to say, just say it. We did the big case of the gold shop in Mongkok, Zhang Xiao said proudly. Li Qing looked at Zhang Xiao, his eyes fixed, and he didn't say anything. Brother Qing, I've found out before that the gold shop didn't pay the land fee, so it's not an offense to you. Li Qing picked up the teacup and took a sip. Do you think I can join the new world? I've been longing for the new world for a long time. Zhang Xiao rubbed his hands and asked. He looked up at Zhang Xiao's head, but the entry was not displayed. Li Qing immediately knew that Zhang Xiao was not sincere with him. A real man lives in the world, how can he be depressed and inferior to others for a long time? Brother Zhang, your achievements are limitless. My temple is small and can't accommodate great gods. Although the words sounded nice, Zhang Xiao also knew that it meant rejection, and his face was not very good. I can use the goods just now as a token of my loyalty. Zhang Xiao was still unwilling. Brother Zhang, do you think I am short of the 6 or 7 million yuan? Li Qing looked at Zhang Xiao with a smile. Zhang Xiao had to shake his head in disappointment. It seemed that Li Qing looked down on him. Before leaving, Li Qing looked at Zhang Xiao's back. Brother Zhang, it's better to stay away from the big circle, otherwise it will be easy to be implicated. Zhang Xiao paused after hearing this, and then quickly walked out of the office. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 45. After walking out of the new world, Zhang Xiao looked back at the high-rise building behind him, and suddenly felt that the gold jewelry he had just robbed was not so good. Brother how is it? Axun asked on the side. Zhang Xiao shook his head with a little disappointment on his face. Why does Li Qing do this? We are rushing to be his younger brothers, but he doesn't want us. He looks down on us. Axun looked at Zhang Xiao's expression and was very angry. Zhang Xiao took out a cigarette from his pocket and held it in his mouth. Why? Just by slipping something through his fingers, he can make more than a single business. Indeed, although robbing a gold shop is quite profitable, one order is worth more than 7 million. But don't forget that if you want to ship the goods, you must find a middleman, and it will only be a little more than 4 million in the hands of Zhang Xiao and others. No, I still have to do a big batch to let Li Qing know my strength. Zhang Xiao thought about it, extinguished the cigarette butt fiercely, and hurried out with his younger brother. Li Qing watched Zhang Xiao walk away from the upstairs, and I don't know what he was thinking. Brother, why don't you accept it? Zhang Dongzhou asked carefully. During this period, New World is recruiting soldiers and horses, planning to develop new businesses, and it is time to need manpower. People like Zhang Xiao are restless and greedy. It's best to stay away from him, otherwise when he is shot, you will be splashed with blood. Li Qing smiled and said to Zhang Dongzhou. Shooting? Didn't Xiang Zhang cancel it? Zhang Dongzhou scratched his head and muttered. It will happen. Yang Jiguang and other big circle boys were crazy looking at the boxes full of banknotes. I have never seen so much money. Yang Jiguang's eyes were full of excitement. This money was enough to build 5 large tiled houses in his hometown. When will we do him another job? Looking at the 2 stacks of money in his hand, he couldn't help saying. Boy, we just did a big case, and the police are looking for us everywhere. Let's go home and wait for the wind to come. The fellow villager patted his shoulder and said. Yang Jiguang nodded, but he had his own ideas in his heart. At night, fellow villagers all took the boat back home, but he secretly stayed. Zhang Xiao pinched his stinging temple and looked at the little man in front of him. Axun, what's the matter? Didn't you settle it? Axun stood up and said embarrassedly, Brother Hao, this kid came back secretly and said he wanted to follow you. Brother Hao, I want to make a lot of money with you. I'm not like them, who are satisfied with a little money. The little Yang Jiguang stood up and said defiantly. Zhang Xiao pondered for a while. He really needed manpower at the moment. He planned to rob the money transporter this time. Okay, follow me and I guarantee you will make a lot of money. I don't know if you are brave or not. Yang Jiguang patted his chest and replied, don't worry, as long as there is money to be made, this life is yours. Zhang Xiao nodded in appreciation. He just wanted this kind of person who valued money over life. Anyway, the money would still be his even if he lost his life. A few months passed, and the underworld in Hong Kong was calm. Except for some small fights by individual societies, nothing happened. After Zhang Xiao robbed the gold shop last time, the land tax in Mongkok increased a lot. The shop owners who didn't pay the land tax before now have to pay it in advance until next year. Until the Kowloon armored car was robbed, the whole Hong Kong was shaken. Because there were more than 10 million in the armored car. You have to know that in Hong Kong at that time, the monthly expenses of an ordinary family were only a few thousand Hong Kong dollars. Li Qing smiled and flicked the newspaper. This Zhang Xiao, he used all his cleverness to rob. Gang Sheng picked up some food for Li Qing, 10 million, not a small amount. Haha, half of his body is buried in the ground, and he is doing a business that is worth killing. It doesn't matter if he robs the governor of Hong Kong's money, but I'm afraid he is too greedy. Li Qing meant something, and Gang Sheng didn't understand. On the contrary, Chen Shooting, who was drinking porridge nearby, said thoughtfully, Brother Qing, do you mean that he would touch things that he shouldn't touch? Shooting studies are not in vain. Chen Shooting originally had a good foundation. After the academic test when she first entered school, the teacher suggested that she go directly to the preparatory course, so she also plans to take the university entrance examination in June next year. After Li Qing finished breakfast and came to the new world, he didn't expect that Zhang Xiao had been waiting for him for a long time. Brother Qing, how is the big case I did? Zhang Xiao was a little arrogant, and even his words were not as respectful as before. This time, he didn't use middlemen to make a profit, but it was a full 10 million. What made him unhappy was that Yang Jiguang, a dwarf, actually wanted to split the profit with him 70% and 30%. Haha, Brother Zhang, is this in this industry? Li Qing gave a thumbs up without hesitation. Zhang Xiao is now a top figure. Zhang Xiao was also a little complacent when he heard Li Qing's praise. His purpose of coming this time was not to join the new world, but to let Li Qing know his ability. I have a big deal, do you want to join? My brain plus your power, we will be able to do anything together. Several successes have greatly increased Zhang Xiao's confidence. He believes that his intelligence and talent are qualified to cooperate with Li Qing. Li Qing shook his head. He was afraid that he would make money but not spend it. Brother Zhang, I am not suitable. I just need to guard my own land honestly. I don't want to get involved in other things. He flatly rejected Zhang Xiao's invitation. Zhang Xiao was not disappointed after hearing this. Anyway, his purpose of pretending to be powerful was achieved. It would be better to have Li Qing in the big deal, but it didn't matter if he didn't. Looking at Zhang Xiao's back, who was walking with the wind, Li Qing shook his head and chuckled. He's half buried in the ground, but he doesn't know it. He didn't plan to participate in this matter, he just wanted to be a bystander. When he was free, Li Qing took Zhang Dongzhou to visit his own place, especially the bars in Causeway Bay, which he had never been to. Brother Qing. Brother Qing, you're here. The doorman saw Li Qing coming and hurried forward to open the door. Li Qing nodded with a smile and walked into the bar. The bar was crowded. Everyone in Hong Kong knew that only the bars in Mongkok and Causeway Bay didn't have flour. For some people, this place was safer than other places. From a distance, I saw a familiar figure sitting at the bar. Miss, I see from your palm that you are destined to have peach blossoms this year, and only I can solve it. The crow touched the hand of a young woman, seemingly reading her palm. Crow, Li Qing shouted behind the crow. Brother. The startled Crow turned around and saw Li Qing standing behind him. The young woman was also startled and hurried away. Brother, I'm flirting with a girl, just touched her hand. Crow's tone was reluctant, and he looked at the young woman who was leaving reluctantly. He doesn't do his job every day, always flirting with girls in the bar. Li Qing scolded him in a very iron-fisted manner. Brother, you didn't assign me any tasks, what should I do? Crow said aggrievedly. It turned out that Li Qing forgot about Crow. After all, the subsidiary company had a supervisor, and he was also delayed by Chen Shooting's matter at that time. Ahem, if you don't give you work to do, you don't know how to find trouble for yourself? Look, is there anyone harassing the waitress in front? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 46. Li Qing pointed at the waitress who was being harassed in front of him. Are you blind? Our people are being harassed, and you don't care. When Crow heard this, he was also anxious, pushed the crowd in front of him, and ran towards the people. Without saying a word, he hit the four-eyed frog who harassed the waitress. You are so cold, you make me lose face in front of my brother. The brutality of Crow obviously frightened several well-mannered workplace elites. Brother, stop hitting her, she is our colleague. That's right, stop hitting her. Crow didn't care and punched her again and again, with a perverted smile on his face. Li Qing walked over with his little brother, and everyone made way. Crow, it's done. Crow stopped and looked at others viciously. Li Qing sat down on the sofa slowly, and Zhang Dongxiu hurried forward and poured him a glass of whiskey. Picking up the glass and taking a sip, Li Qing looked at a group of workplace elites who were submissive. Tell me, why are you making trouble in my place? A group of people were trembling with fear, and no one dared to stand up. I'll tell you, the waitress said in a low voice with her head down. At this time, Li Qing noticed this waitress. Although she was wearing uniform clothes, she still couldn't hide her curvy figure. Especially that pure and lustful face, which reminded Li Qing of a Hong Kong star in his previous life. What's your name? My name is Xingxin, they are my colleagues, we are just joking. Xingxin bit her lip. He glanced at Xingxin and knew that she was not telling the truth. Give him some money and let him go to the hospital. If these people come again, beat them up every time they see them. Li Qing pointed at the man lying on the ground, who was already unconscious, and said, Tell Crow if you have anything to say. You are my employee, every day you are here, and no one in the whole Hong Kong dares to touch you. Li Qing deliberately said loudly. Xingxin was suddenly suppressed by his domineering CEO's momentum, and looked at Li Qing with a dazed face. She had been a good girl since she was young, and this was the first time she met such a manly man. Li Qing turned and left, treating this as a minor episode and not paying attention. After Li Qing's people left, the crowd dared to discuss. Who is this? So domineering. You don't even know him? Li Qing, the boss of New World. Ah, he is Li Qing? So handsome. Xingxin then realized that he was her big boss Li Qing. Her so-called colleague, carrying the unconscious four-eyed frog, lowered his head and dared not look at her, and hurried away. This was the first time she felt relieved. Brother, a Mr. Lin is looking for you. Mr. Lin? That Mr. Lin, Li Qing took the phone from Zhang Dongxiu in confusion. Those who are familiar with him basically know his private number, but there is no one surnamed Lin among the familiar people. Hello, Mr. Li. I am Lin Jiaqin. The voice of a middle-aged man came from the other end of the phone. Li Qing's mind moved and he frowned. Of course, he knew about Lin Jiaqin. Everyone in Hong Kong knew about it. Hello, Mr. Lin. What can I do for you? Mr. Li, can we have a quick meeting? My driver is downstairs. It seemed that Lin Jiaqin had already arranged it. Li Qing had no objection. Since a Hong Kong upper-class person had come to him, it meant that he had something that he could not solve openly. Without hesitation, he took Zhang Dongxiu to the little golden man that had been parked on the side of the road. There were only the driver and an old housekeeper in the car. Mr. Li, excuse me, the old housekeeper smiled at Li Qing. Let's go. Li Qing nodded. Not long after, they arrived at the Lin's Manor on Deepwater Bay Road, which was built by Lin Jiaqin at a cost of 700 million yuan. Li Qing got out of the car and looked at the European-style manor, with a hint of envy in his eyes. To be able to build such a large manor in Hong Kong, where every inch of land is worth a lot of money, is not just a matter of money. Li Qing sat on the sofa, and tea and snacks had just been served. Lin Jiaqin walked down slowly from upstairs. I didn't expect that Mr. Li is so young, he is really young and promising. Li Qing also smiled and looked at the old man. Hello, Mr. Lin. I have heard of you for a long time. The two sat down in order. Lin Jiaqin waved away the old housekeeper, and Li Qing also understood and let Zhang Dongxiu go out. Mr. Li, the matter is urgent, I told the truth. Although he said so, there was no sign of anxiety on Lin Jiaqin's face. Please speak. Mr. Li, my nephew was kidnapped, and the other party wanted a ransom of 1 billion. Lin Jiaqin looked calm, as if the kidnapped person was not his relative. Mr. Lin should call the police for this matter, right? Li Qing had guessed it before he came. After all, he had no intersection with Lin Jiaqin. He suddenly invited him. In addition to this matter, he could not think of any other reason. I don't believe in their ability, and I am afraid that the kidnappers will kill the hostage. I found you because you are well known in the Hong Kong underworld, and anyone will give you 3 points of face. Lin Jiaqin shook his head and explained. Compared to the cops in Hong Kong, he is more willing to believe in the interests of the underworld. I will give you whatever ransom the kidnappers want, as long as you can bring my nephew back safely. Li Qing drank tea and remained silent. He has not decided whether to intervene in this matter. The main thing is what he can get. Money alone is not enough to impress Li Qing. Let's put it this way, Mr. Lin. If I can rescue your nephew, I don't want money. I want to invest in your company. Li Qing thought for a long time. He could earn more by riding a favorable boat than by smuggling, and the money came from a legitimate source. Okay, but only in Changjiang real estate. Lin Jiaqin knew Li Qing's purpose as soon as he heard it. It was nothing more than making money with him. Okay, how much investment? I'll tell you after I rescue the person. The two clinked their teacups and made an agreement. Li Qing walked out of Lin Jiaqin's mansion and sighed. After this matter was done, he would thank Zhang Xiao very much. He was a good man. Back to his villa, Li Qing did not dare to delay and immediately called Zhang Xiao. Brother Zhang, what a big deal. Zhang Xiao's heart jumped and his face looked extremely ugly. At this time, except for Lin Jiaqin, no one knew that they had kidnapped Lin Jiaqin's nephew. How did Li Qing know? Brother Qing, I don't understand what you are saying. I'm on vacation in the Maldives. Zhang Xiao was flustered and said nonsense. Li Qing didn't say anything but smiled, he. Zhang Xiao also knew that he couldn't hide it from Li Qing at all, unless he didn't go by water and didn't buy arms. Brother Qing, celebrities don't speak in secret. I made this order, Zhang Xiao said. Anyway, the whole of Hong Kong will know about this soon, so it won't make any difference if he admits it now. Just speak openly and listen to what Li Qing's purpose is. Brother Zhang, I'll protect this person. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 47. Zhang Xiao felt depressed for a while. He said, "I'll save the person I tied up if you ask me to." "Why?" A trace of anger flashed in his eyes. If it didn't work, he would break up the vote, or at worst, flee to Southeast Asia. "Don't worry, the ransom will definitely be given to you. I understand the rules." Li Qing's calm voice came from the phone. "Haha, did you tell me earlier? Brother Cheng." Zhang Zihao thought that Li Qing wanted to eat alone. If that was the case, it would be a big deal. "I want you to ensure Mr. Lin's safety." "No problem." Originally it was all about money, not to mention that Lin Fei was different from other meat lovers. If he really broke the ticket, he would be dead. But 1 billion is a bit exaggerated. "I will be a peacemaker, so you don't want to order more. Mr. Lin promised me not to call the police." Li Qing kept turning the lighter in his hand. Zhang Xiao on the other side also fell into silence. "In fact," he said 1 billion casually. No matter how rich the other party was, it was impossible to collect 1 billion in just 2 days, and it was still old banknotes. 5 billion, Zhang Xiao blurted out. "Hey, brother Zhang, you really have no idea about cash. You can't drive a truck with 500 million yuan. Li Qing shook his head. "Being a sideman these days also requires brains. Let's do it, 100 million Hong Kong dollars. I'll discuss it with Mr. Lin, and I won't retaliate afterwards." Zhang Xiao opened his eyes wide. "I want a humming billion, you give me 100 million, this is not cutting in half, this is directly cutting the head." "No, I'll grab a cash transport truck and pay back 10 million. Zhang Xiao said unconvinced. "Then you're going to rob a cash truck 10 times. Li Qing's words made Zhang Xiao speechless for a moment. One success was already a fluke, 10 times. He was afraid that he would be shot dead on the spot, and the flying tigers in Xiangjiang were not vegetarians. 20 million. Just 100 million. 180 million. 100 million. 170 million. 100 million. No, you should be better off. Zhang Xiao couldn't help blurting out, "Why is this person like this? It's not him who spent the money." "Okay, 110 million, Li Qing shook his head. He planned to grind slowly. "Make a deal." Zhang Xiao's cheerful voice came from the opposite side. "Got," Li Qing couldn't help it now, 110 million? No more. Can we add more?" "Cannot." The two agreed on a time and place and hung up the phone. Zhang Xiao walked out of the room, and a group of robbers looked at him expectantly. "How's it going, brother? How has the price been agreed upon?" Yang Jiguang asked excitedly. "Oh, 10 million, the other party only promised 10 million, Zhang Xiao said with a bitter face. The kidnappers all looked at Zhang Xiao in shock. Are the rich men in Xiangjiang so cold-blooded? Even Lin Fei, who was tied to a chair, looked at Zhang Xiao in disbelief. "No, brother, how are the rich in Xiangjiang so stingy? 10 million to send to beggars? No, we need at least 500 million. Yang Jiguang shouted while jumping on his feet. The last robbery of the cash transport truck had already whetted his appetite. "What do you know? No culture, 500 million, you can't even pull a truck away. Is there a live flower?" Zhang Xiao scolded Yang Jiguang. 10 million is not bad. They are all old banknotes. The most important thing is that Lin Jiaqin said he would not call the police and would not retaliate afterwards. The other kidnappers nodded after hearing this, which was good. The worst case scenario is that we will tie up a few more wealthy businessmen in the future, one for 10 million, and 10 for 100 million. All the kidnappers were fooled by Zhang Xiao for a moment, and they all nodded in agreement. "Brother, how are we going to divide this time?" Yang Jiguang's eyes were filled with reluctance. But Yang Jiguang was different. The last time he robbed a cash transport truck, he was given $500,000. This time, when he kidnapped a wealthy businessman, he thought he should give him a few million anyway. Same as last time. What? I don't agree, Yang Jiguang objected loudly. Zhang Xiao looked at the little Yang Jiguang and said, "How do you want to divide it?" "I want to be 50-50 with you." Zhang Xiao laughed angrily when he heard this, and then picked up a gun and put it on Yang Jiguang's forehead. "How to divide it?" $500,000. Yang Jiguang was very cowardly, but there was a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. Zhang Xiao went home to prepare some things, and then went to the agreed place to get money. After he left, Yang Jiguang came to Lin Fei. "What kind of uncle is this? You are worth 10 million, but I still treat you as the god of wealth and beat you to death." He just punched and kicked poor Lin Fei. The other kidnappers finally managed to persuade him. Yang Jiguang panted and looked at Lin Fei. "No, we can't just let it go." On the other side, Li Qing also reached an agreement with Lin Jiaqin. Lin Jiaqin said that he would agree to anything as long as his nephew's personal safety was guaranteed. Of course, the 110 million old banknotes are also ready. When they arrived at the agreed time and place, Li Qing and several of his younger brothers were already waiting there. Looking at Zhang Xiao driving over from a distance, he smiled. "Brother Zhang, you will be on the headlines tomorrow. This is how you become famous in one battle." Zhang Xiao was also very happy. Not only did he get the ransom, but he could also become famous on the road. He believed that as soon as this news appeared in the magazine tomorrow, it would definitely be more powerful than Li Qing. "Here's the money, where are the people?" Li Qing asked after taking a puff of cigarette. "Brother Qing, as kidnappers, we cannot deal with you directly. Follow my car." Li Qing winked at his younger brother and immediately got into the car and chased after him. Soon, they came to a dilapidated hut in the countryside, and Zhang Xiao walked in first. "Hey, come out and move the money." But Li Qing noticed something was wrong. He smelled a bloody smell and signaled Zhang Dongzhou to take out the gun. Zhang Xiao walked a few steps and felt something was wrong because there was no movement in the house. Bang! He kicked the door open and saw only the bodies of several kidnappers in the house, but Lin Fei was missing. Li Qing walked past Zhang Xiao and walked into the house. The bodies of several kidnappers were lying on the ground, and the blood was everywhere on the ground, which had not yet coagulated. There was also a piece of white paper on the chair, and the words on it were simply "dog crawling." Li Qing spent some time to recognize it. "If you want Lin Fei, take 100 million in exchange." 101xxxxxxxxx. A groan came from the ground, and Zhang Xiao hurried over. Axun, Axun. "Brother Hao, Yang Jiguang said that 10 million is too little, and he wants to split it with you 50-50. After saying this, Axun died. 10 million, Li Qing seemed to understand something, and the distribution was obviously uneven. "Ah Hao, I didn't expect you to capsize in the gutter. If Lin Fei has any accident, no one can protect you." Li Qing glanced at Zhang Xiao, turned around and left with Zhang Dongzhou and others. He dialed the phone number left on the white paper while walking, and the phone rang only twice before it was connected. "Hello, where are you? The money is ready." Li Qing could clearly hear the panting of the other party, as if he was running. "Who are you? Why are you ready so quickly? Don't lie to me." "I am Li Qing, and it was agreed to be 110 million at the beginning." Li Qing only heard a burst of cursing from the other side, frowned, and waited for Yang Jiguang's reply. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 48. Keep your phone open and I'll contact you at any time. After Yang Jiguang finished speaking, he hung up the phone. Li Qing's face was ashen. He thought things were going smoothly, but unexpectedly there were twists and turns. "Tie Zhang Xiao up for me." He ordered his younger brother to tie up Zhang Xiao. If Li Fei has any good intentions, throwing Zhang Xiao out will also calm the Lin family's anger a little. Mata, if Zhang Xiao hadn't been greedy, how could these incidents have happened? Shaoran, search him for several kilometers. I don't believe he can go anywhere with his short legs. Li Qing had long realized that Yang Jiguang would not be able to run very far. He was a young man who was unfamiliar with the place and had no means of transportation. Moreover, he had a large living person with him. After giving the order, the members of the New World began to search in all directions. Not long after, a younger brother came to report that a fellow villager saw a short man dragging a man tied with a rope into an unfinished building 3 kilometers away. Li Qing immediately surrounded the unfinished building and stood downstairs. At this time, Yang Jiguang also realized that something was wrong. "Li Qing, you are playing dirty tricks. Don't you want his life?" Yang Jiguang pushed Lin Fei's head and shouted downstairs. "Yang Jiguang, let's talk. I'll go in by myself without weapons." After speaking, Li Qing dropped the gun on the ground. Yang Jiguang looked at the defenseless Li Qing and nodded. "Brother, how about I go in?" Zhang Dongzia was worried about Li Qing's safety. "You have me to fight," Li Qing smiled. After walking into the unfinished building and going up to the second floor, they found Yang Jiguang hiding behind the pillar, using Lin Fei as a shield. "I'm here, I'm not armed, don't be afraid." Looking at the panicked Yang Jiguang, Li Qing said. "Who the hell says I'm afraid? Give me the money." Mr. Lin also said that as long as Mr. Lin is fine, there will be no further investigation. Obviously Yang Jiguang was also afraid that he would not be able to get out of the unfinished building. If Zhang Xiao hadn't been too evil-hearted, he wouldn't have taken the risk. "I promise you, you will let Mr. Lin go first." "You think I'm an idiot? They're all your people outside. Can I leave if I let them go?" Li Qing smiled. "This Yang Jiguang is not stupid. In this way, you take me as a hostage and let Mr. Lin go. I will accompany you down and give you a car, which will be enough for you to run a long way." Yang Jiguang was stunned when he heard this, but after thinking about it, this method was feasible. If the hostage was Li Qing, his men would never dare to act rashly. At this time, Lin Fei's eyes flashed with emotion. He didn't expect that Li Qing would be so self-sacrificial for others. If he could survive, he would definitely make him his friend. Li Qing slowly approached Yang Jiguang, and Yang Jiguang also slowly pushed Lin Fei forward. Finally arriving at the place where the two met, Yang Jiguang pushed Lin Fei away. They wanted to catch Li Qing, but unfortunately they were too short and could only put their guns against Li Qing's chest. "Humph, your Li Qing is nothing more than that without his little brother." Yang Jiguang knew Li Qing's name from other kidnappers, and he was the talkative person of the entire Hong Kong society. Now she is as obedient as a cat in his hands, which makes him very proud. "I am afraid Zhang Xiao is not so majestic." Li Qing looked down at the little dwarf and said contemptuously, "Do you know there is a saying that within 3 meters, a punch is faster than a gun?" Yang Jiguang was slightly stunned when he heard this. He felt severe pain in his arm and the gun in his hand fell to the ground. Then Li Qing swept Yang Jiguang's legs with a tiger tail kick, breaking both of Yang Jiguang's legs. "Okay, now it's even shorter." Lin Fei, who had a bruised nose and face, looked at Yang Jiguang, whose arms were folded and his legs were like noodles, and clicked his tongue. "It's too cruel." Li Qing smiled when he heard this. "Master Lin, I see you are suffering a lot like this." Only then did Lin Fei remember the injury on his face, and stepped forward to kick Yang Jiguang, who was lying on the ground wailing. At this time, the younger brothers heard the sound and rushed up. Regardless of Yang Jiguang's pain, they tied him up and carried him down. "Let's go, Mr. Lin, your family is waiting for you." "Li Qing, thank you for your kindness. We will be friends from now on. Lin Fei said sincerely. I am honored to be Mr. Lin's friend. The two shook hands and smiled at each other. Yang Jiguang felt uncomfortable being carried into the car. The fractures to his legs and right arm caused him unbearable pain. Zhang Xiao, who was also tied up in the car, his eyes turned red when he saw Yang Jiguang. I'm going to hum you, you rebellious brat. While cursing, he kept hitting Yang Jiguang with his shoulder, causing Yang Jiguang to scream in pain. You're still talking about me. The ransom is 110 million. If you give me 500,000, are you still a human being? Zhang Xiao refused to listen and kept hitting Yang Jiguang with his shoulder. Yang Jiguang's screams in the car spread far and wide. An hour later, Deepwater Bay, Lin Family Manor. Li Qing returned 110 million to the Lin family. Lin Jiaqin sat opposite Li Qing and personally brought him a cup of tea. Thank you this time. You are smarter than I thought. Lin Jiaqin pointed to the 110 million on the ground. Mr. Lin, you're welcome. Li Qing took the teacup and took a sip. Lin Jiaqin didn't say anything, but Li Qing knew that he could get on this big ship in the future. Zhang Xiao and Yang Jiguang, Mr. Lin wants to. Lin Jiaqin waved his hand. Mr. Li, I said I won't pursue the case. Understood. Li Qing looked at Lin Jiaqin and smiled mysteriously. Dongxiu, sink the two people in the car into the sea, he deliberately said in front of Lin Jiaqin. Yes, brother. Lin Jiaqin paused with the cup in his hand, and then took a sip of tea. The two chatted for a few more words before Li Qing said goodbye. When he was a few steps away from the door, he heard Lin Jiaqin's words from behind, Mr. Li, if you have spare money, you can buy that unfinished building. Li Qing smiled knowingly and then walked out of the room. He always believed that the most profitable business is not reselling, but information. Sometimes an inconspicuous piece of information can make people rich overnight, earning more than making money from side jobs, and there is no risk at all. As for Zhang Xiao and Yang Jiguang, of course they were sunk into the sea by Li Qing's younger brother. After Li Qing left, Lin Fei, who had taken a shower and applied medicine, walked downstairs. Uncle, Li Qing is gone. Lin Jiaqin smiled and looked at Lin Fei. He's gone. What do you think of this guy? Lin Fei thought for a while. He's different from the general leaders of the community. He is principled, knows the rules, and most importantly, is reliable. Lin Jiaqin's eyes flashed and he nodded. This guy is a hero. Lin Fei's face showed surprise. His uncle was very arrogant. No one of his age could catch his eye. It seemed that this Li Qing was really extraordinary. Well, and he is also very good at Kung Fu. Let him teach me when he has time. Otherwise, I will have no power to fight back when I encounter such a situation in the future. Lin Jiaqin looked at his nephew speechlessly. His brain circuit was too big and he talked about Kung Fu. Ah, and uncle, didn't the robber ask for 10 billion at the beginning? How come it became 100 million? Hey, uncle, don't leave, I haven't finished talking yet. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 49. In the following time, Li Qing began to ask people to investigate information about unfinished buildings. He also wants to buy the land around the unfinished building and take advantage of this spring breeze to make some money. Dongxiu, how is the land around the unfinished building? Looking at Zhang Dongxiu next to him, Li Qing asked suddenly. Zhang Dongxiu also thought that this matter was not difficult to handle at first. Who knew that the surrounding villagers had strong opinions and even almost caused a fight? Looking at Zhang Dongxiu's expression of embarrassment, what? Is there a problem? Brother, the local people refused to sell it. Zhang Dongzhou said with an embarrassed look on his face that he couldn't even complete such a simple task. Li Qing said nothing. No matter what method was used, this place must be taken down. Let's go and see what's going on. Putting on his coat, he took Zhang Dongzhou and hurried towards Shidin. Not long after, the car arrived a few hundred meters away from the unfinished building, and the car was blocked by a roadblock. It didn't exist when I came last time. It seems that the local villagers have just set it up. The group had no choice but to get out of the car and enter the village on foot. There was a lot of noise in the village, and it was obviously Zhang Dongzhou's people who were doing work for the villagers. We won't sell. I think the boss who built the unfinished building said it was for our own good, but now you see it not only affects our farming, but also destroys the feng shui of our village. The village elder said indignantly, leaning on a cane. Don't worry, our boss is powerful. After buying the unfinished building, he will replan it and properly arrange the idle labor force. No, unless you solve the problem of the unfinished building first. Li Qing and others could hear from a distance that a group of people gathered together and made a lot of noise. Brother Qing finally, a younger brother, noticed that his boss was coming. There was a continuous wave of greetings. Li Qing nodded and walked straight to the village elder. What's your surname? Xiangzhang has continued the customs of eastern Guangdong and has a relatively strong clan concept. Especially in this rural area, the clan elders have great power in the village. The clan elder looked at the person who came with the air of a big brother and looked Li Qing up and down. My surname is Chen. Who are you? Li Qing's eyes moved slightly when he heard this. The surname Chen was considered a common surname in Xiangzhang, accounting for 1/10 of the population in Xiangzhang. Hello, Mr. Chen. My surname is Li, and my last name is Cheng. Elder Chen nodded and said nothing. In a small place like the countryside, Li Qing's reputation was not prominent. Especially since the old man of the Chen clan is already quite old, it is even less possible for him to know about Li Qing's deeds. If you have any requests, just ask us and we will try our best to meet them. Li Qing looked at the clan elder with a smile. It's not that we won't sell, it's because we were tricked by the real estate developer last time. We agreed to invest together, but the person withdrew his capital and ran away. If you want to buy land, you must first solve the problem of unfinished buildings. Chen clan angrily struck the ground with his cane. Dongzhou, who owns the unfinished building next to it, Li Qing looked at the clan elder and turned to Zhang Dongzhou and asked. Brother, this is Han Chen from Yaomati, Zhang Dongzhou said in Li Qing's ear. Li Qing chuckled. It seemed that this clan leader was dishonest and did not tell the truth. He probably knew that Han Chen was the talker in Yaomati, so even if he suffered a loss, he would not dare to retaliate, so he would use the trick of driving the tiger away and swallowing the wolf. Okay, Mr. Chen, I will help you solve the problem of the unfinished building, but the land around the unfinished building must be sold to me. How about it? Li Qing took out the cigarette from his pocket, and the boy next to him immediately lit it. Elder Chen thought for a moment and nodded, okay. I hope you keep your promise. Li Qing said no more, turned around and left with his younger brothers. Immediately after Li Qing left, a middle-aged man walked up to Elder Chen and asked, Mr. Chen, do you really want to sell it to him? Oh, I'm not stupid, and I didn't sign the contract, so I can't back up my words. Elder Chen looked at Li Qing's back with disdain. He was still too young. Young people should suffer more these days. But, I think this Li Qing is not that simple. The middle-aged man scratched his head, feeling that there was an indescribable majesty in Li Qing. The elder of the Chen clan gave a loud bang and slapped the middle-aged man on the back of the head. No matter how powerful he is, he can still be more powerful than Han Chen. Don't forget that Han Chen and those guys all have guns. Remembering the last time when Han Chen's cold gun barrel was pressed between his eyebrows, the elder Chen shuddered. He was frightened by Han Chen. In the evening, make an appointment with Han Chen to meet at Yaguanqiang, Li Qing then ordered. Looking at her watch again, Chen Shooting saw that it was almost time for school to end, so she simply asked Zhang Dongzhou to leave him at the school gate. I have never been here before, but I wanted to come and see what the school environment is like. Dongzhou, you go back and rest. I can drive by myself. After driving Zhang Dongzhou back, Li Qing also thought about a world for two. Brother, but... Li Qing waved his hand. With his current physical fitness, as long as it was not an anti-material sniper rifle, other light weapons would not pose a fatal threat to him. I know you just got married. Please spend more time with me when you have time. Zhang Dongzhou scratched his head naively when he heard this. Recently, Zhang Dongzhou just got a girlfriend. She seems to be a lawyer. She is good looking, but a little petite and delicate. She is only a little over 1.5 meters tall. Several times, when Li Qing saw the two of them together, he wondered if Zhang Dongzhou would crush him to death. It was a typical Beauty and the Beast. Walking into the campus, Zhangjiang's campus was different from what he had imagined. There were several big banyan trees on the campus, and the playground was also very small. There were bursts of reading sounds coming from the classrooms. Li Qing didn't know Chen Shooting's classroom, so he had to slowly look for it one by one. He stopped after passing a classroom. This classroom was different from the others. The students in the whole classroom were noisy and playing by themselves. The female teacher on the stage made Li Qing slightly familiar. After thinking carefully, he realized that it was the female teacher who worked in his bar last time. Everyone, come and read with me, Yueyang Tower. A crisp voice came out of her mouth. Teacher Xingxin, save your breath. Look, no one is listening. The tall and thin man with yellow hair stood up and looked at the female teacher with a mocking look. Indeed, no one in the whole classroom was listening to the class, but the female teacher seemed not to hear it and insisted on reading. Looking at teacher Xingxin, who was constantly reciting on the stage, Huang Mao felt very embarrassed. I told you to stop reciting, didn't you hear me? What the hell are you reciting? I'll ask my little brother Fi Long to show you a piece. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 50. At this time, a fat boy stood on the desk, and the whole class began to cheer. Teacher Xingxin looked at this group of students who were like gangsters helplessly, feeling very desperate. Since the last time in the bar, Crow bullied her vice principal, and the vice principal has been making things difficult for her and transferred her to the worst class in the school. These students don't study, the female students still work part-time outside, and the male students just hang out with the short mules outside. The fat boy's rap sounded, the Wu family's industry is all planted with trees, and the Wu family's pond is full of sharks. The rap also contained dirty jokes and swear words, which was simply unbearable to the ears. The whole class applauded and cheered loudly. The yellow-haired man stood up and slapped the fat boy on the head. I asked you to recite a poem, what the hell did you recite? Xingxin was so angry that her face turned pale on the podium, holding the book tightly in her hand. She never thought that students could be so bad. Are you worthy of your parents like this? The whole class became quiet, and everyone looked at her with disdain. Huang Mao walked up to the podium, whether I study or not is none of your business. He was about to hit Xingxin in the face, and Xingxin was so scared that she covered her chest with her hands and closed her eyes. Huang Mao felt as if her wrist was caught by an iron hoop and could not move. Li Qing looked at Huang Mao, who was in pain in front of him, and gently pushed him, and Huang Mao fell to the ground. Xingxin opened her eyes after hearing the sound and saw Li Qing's broad back. You dare to hit me, where are you from? Li Qing squatted down after hearing this, and Huang Mao quickly moved back a few steps in fear. Are you asking me? Li Qing asked jokingly. Can't I ask? Huangmao covered his painful wrist and continued to speak rudely. I'm a teacher at a private middle school in Mongkok. You can call me Tiger Li. You're a teacher and you dare to hit me. Everyone knows that I'm the younger brother of the boss of Tsim Shasui, Prince. Huangmao felt that he was getting cocky again. Oh, so what? You teach. I'll teach. Huangmao pushed Li Qing away and wrote the 3 characters Chen Henan on the blackboard with chalk. Well, everyone knows that my idol is Chen Henan. He has many younger brothers, he's handsome, and he's loyal. But now he's going to Thailand to develop, but his legend is still circulating in the world. At this time, the students in the whole classroom slapped their desks and shouted, Chen Henan! Chen Henan! Huangmao opened his arms, as if he was Chen Henan, accepting the cheers of his classmates. Puff Li Qing finally couldn't help laughing. There are still people who worship Chen Henan, seduce the second sister-in-law, and sell out pheasants. Laugh, laugh your mother's head. Huangmao saw that an ordinary teacher dared to laugh at his idol, so he naturally wouldn't be polite to him. He stepped forward to teach Li Qing a lesson, obviously having forgotten the scene where Li Qing just beat him up. Xin saw that there was going to be another conflict, and hurriedly stood in front of Li Qing to stop Huangmao. I was scared like a quail just now, what are you trying to do? Li Qing said, and then he grabbed Xin's collar and turned her behind him. I didn't expect that this Huangmao, who was talking nonsense and couldn't even fight, actually stepped forward and grabbed his collar. Li Qing naturally wouldn't tolerate him, and slapped him in the face with a big bag. Sizzle! Huangmao flew out, and before flying, he also broke several buttons of Li Qing's shirt. Half of the tiger's head was revealed for a while, and the green eyes were fascinating. Xin was also startled, looking at the tiger head with fear. The whole classroom was very quiet. No one dared to breathe. Some girls lay on the table and trembled. You are so brave. You actually ruined my shirt. Li Qing walked to the side of the frightened Huangmao. He squatted down and patted his face hard. Chen Henan? It has been broken into more than 80 pieces and sunk to the bottom of the sea, you poor boy. Huangmao looked at the man in front of him and was very scared. He didn't know who the man in front of him was. But just looking at the tiger head tattooed on his front, he knew that this person was not simple. In the future, if I see you bullying her again, I will let you accompany Chen Henan and pounce. Li Qing stood up and stepped on Huangmao's knee. Huangmao's scream resounded throughout the classroom, and all the students couldn't help but tremble. Looking at Huangmao, who had obviously broken his bones, Li Qing staggered to the podium. Hey, you bad boys, someone will teach you how to behave when you enter society. After saying that, he walked towards the door. When he passed by Xingxin, he lowered his head to look at the woman, and slowly lowered his head to whisper in her ear, if you have any problems, go to the bar to find me. Then he took a deep sniff of her hair. Xingxin was obviously startled by his action, and shrank like a wounded rabbit, only feeling her face burning. When Li Qing walked out of the classroom, she reacted and hurriedly asked other classmates to send Huangmao to the hospital. Bitch, what's the name of that man just now? I want my big brother to kill him. Huangmao shouted while holding back the pain. Li Qing. Huangmao didn't expect her answer to be so straightforward. His name is Li Qing. Xingxin knew that Huangmao could not threaten Li Qing at all. The boss of New World? Li Qing, the tiger of Mongkok. Huangmao opened his eyes wide in fear, and his last tone was trembling. His eldest brother, Taizé, had told him long ago that Li Qing in the whole Hong Kong was the one who should not be provoked. Since Li Qing left Hong Xing has fallen from the position of the 3 major societies and has now become a second-rate society, which is only slightly better than the Sunset Society like Hessian Gang. He never thought that he would provoke this fierce god while attending classes in school. He looked at teacher Xingson again. Well, teacher, I spoke a little loudly just now, sorry. Don't worry, my leg was broken by myself, it has nothing to do with others. Fi Long looked at his eldest brother in surprise. Since he followed Huang Mao, he had never seen him be so polite to anyone. Hurry up, take me to the hospital, Huang Mao urged his younger brothers. He didn't want to stay in this classroom for a moment. No, just transfer to another school. Who knows when Li Qing will come again? Huang Mao has already made up his mind to transfer to another school after leaving the hospital. From the name of the human shadow tree and the howl of the yellow-haired man, the students all knew Li Qing's identity. Like good students, they sat at their desks and waited for Xingson to continue the class. Xingson looked at the students who were arrogant at first and respectful later, and remembered the man who just walked out. He had a special charm, different from the gentle people she had met before. Teacher, can we start the class? The girl under the podium asked cautiously. Oh, sorry, we are going to start the class now.